Harley, this one is for you. Even though I have to say, it's kind of weird because I have no idea why anyone would be interested in this. But we're gonna do it because apparently you happy screech when I do it. So, welcome to me explaining things. Episode 2, I think, although the first one is not public. And we're back to work in organizational psychology. And this time, the second semester, I actually passed the last exam. I was actually good at the last exam. That was good, yes. And even did some preparation, believe it or not. And translated my script, which is has one reason mainly that I don't know technical terms in English, so instead of having to look everything up all the time, as I did last time, and last time I was at my desk. Now welcome to my bookshelf. Yay, there's a brain. I have my script translated, and so I'm just gonna babble to you about A&O, and I'm gonna try and keep it around 10 minutes tops. I don't know, maybe I'll edit this. Don't know yet. We'll see how this goes. So, work in organizational psychology. I already had a semester. That was kind of fun. I kind of liked it. There's another semester now. It's starting to get on my nerves because there's the same things over and over and over again, but I think that's normal. And, well, honestly, the first lecture is just introductory, like how we view work. Like, we can view it as a hardship, we can view it as a Christian duty, we can view it as an alienation, which would be Marxism and stuff, as self-realization, or as a cost factor, like you just have to afford life. And different age groups have different priorities when it comes to their workplace. Like, for example, younger people want, like, it's more important to them to be able to learn new things than for older people. For older people, on the other hand, it's more important that their workplace is secure, that they don't have to fear for it, and that they have a high level of independence. What is important for everybody, literally everybody, is that it's interesting and well paid. Which in my opinion kind of makes sense. Yeah, I see that. Interesting, well paid, that sounds like a good job. So, but those values, they don't only differ between age groups, they also differ between generations. So, like, we start with the baby boomers. They're like a study from Tavige. I have no idea how to pronounce his name, sorry. If you're still alive, dude, I'm sorry. And they looked at people born in like 1958, 59, baby boomers, then born in 73, 74 as Generation X, and born in 88, 89 as Generation Me. And they just observed how those values, like what is important in life, changed. And there's one very, very clear trend, which is leisure time is more important. It's just growing. Like, they said, they took the baby boomers and set it as like the baseline. They set everything to 0, and then they observed the changes in those values. So leisure goes up pretty drastically. I can understand again. Then, like, extrinsic values like income and prestige and stuff went up and then down a little bit. And the entire rest, which is intrinsic values like I work out of interest or out of fun, or altruistic values like helping through labor, or social values like a desire for connection through work, they all go down. We don't do that at work anymore, apparently. And yeah, so this shows how how we view work changes over time. But there's a problem with these kind of studies because we don't know what the baby boomers from back then would say if we asked them now. So this is only comparing generations. It's not a longitudinal design as well. So we only have one statement from each generation and not multiple. So we don't know how the values of the baby boomers would have changed today maybe they would have very similar values to Generation Me, just because they went with time. We don't know that because the study doesn't look at it. So, I'm not very good at giving presentations, as you can obviously see. Also, this is only minimally prepared. Psychosocial functions of work. My teaching style would tell me now to ask you a question and wait until you answer me, but I'm talking to a camera, so I'm not going to do that. So we can see work as a burden and a duty because, well, it's necessary to live. We have an obligation to carry out certain activities that we don't necessarily always want to do. I think you can always do that. Then we have work as activity and competence. So it's also something positive in the sense of, okay, I'm doing something and I'm good at something. I have abilities. I have skills. And that can give you a sense of empowerment. Then we have work as target structuring, or goal structuring, which is for me also kind of time structuring. I don't know exactly, maybe that's because it's automatically translated, I don't know. It means just like having a schedule. I personally relate to that a lot. If I don't have a schedule, yay, I sleep, like whenever. And it's also, work is a means of achieving one's goals. So whether that is a small goal of I want to go to Disneyland, or it's a big goal, I want to buy a house, you kind of specifically, like strategically go and look for a job that enables you to eventually fulfill your goals. Whether you do that fast or slow, it doesn't matter. You're always kind of working towards a goal if you have one. And then there's work as a place for cooperation and contact, which is not possible in every profession. And that sucks. Yeah, like there are people that have jobs where they're just alone all day and they can't talk to anyone. I imagine that to be kind of frustrating. I mean, it's what I'm doing because I'm studying at home in this room all day, every day. But still, it's kind of frustrating. At least I can, like, you know, be online, talk to people, and there are people that can't. They're just alone. And social contact, you kind of get your social field together, and B, you develop social skills. And I'm really thirsty. I'm going to be right back. We're back. The last one, no, not the last one. Second to last one, work as performance and value. So you're performing a socially useful task. We've seen before that that's not really a big, great value anymore, but it's still there. It exists. It shapes your personal lifestyle, and it gives you recognition, both directly and indirectly from others. And then there's work as personality development, which is like positive in some cases and then rather negative in other cases. Like if you do the same job over years and years and years, it will change you eventually. And that can be positive, that can also be negative. Like if it's really a not very demanding job, maybe you just don't train your cognitive ability as much as you would in another job. And then if you have a very stimulating job, the opposite is the case. So for personality development, it can be a mean of self-realization, or also just like development of one's personality. You're shaped by your work. I mean, I should know, I am 100% a student. I'm a cliche in a person. Yeah. I could compare housework with management work now, but I don't really want to. I mean, it's kind of obvious what the differences are. So the frame definition of work in organizational psychology seems like a little bit more interesting. The central subject of work in organizational psychology is human work and its organization. Kind of duh. So general tasks of work in organizational psychologists include participating in description, analysis, explanation, prognosis and design of human work and organization. Duh. So that connection between human behavior and experience and work and organization is kind of what sets it apart to other fields of psychology, because everybody looks at experience and behavior, but not everybody looks at work. And it's also like the difference to economy or like economics, because they don't look at behavior or the experience. So the fact that it's both is what makes it work and organizational psychology. Then we have a lot of things. Oh yeah, right. Okay. So there are different facets of work and organizational psychology, like content theories, methods, the organization itself, and professions for, just gonna call it A&O psychologist because I just always call it A&O. That's just what it is. Okay. So contents of A&O. Work itself, like the thing you do. So meaning and effect of it. You can analyze it, you can evaluate it. There are, what's that called again? Models of action theory, which is kind of a big thing. Concepts and principles of work design, breaks and shift design, and also like how to deal with new technologies. Then there's the individual, that concerns stress and strain, mental health and strain, qualifications, occupational aptitude and performance, work motivation and job satisfaction, all those sorts of things that we kind of have in mind, and also like the big one, human resources. Then there's the interaction, like interaction between people in the organization. So that concerns leadership and communication in groups, leadership styles, performance norms, wage systems, also intervention techniques for individuals or groups, like if something's not going as it should, that you can do something about it. And then there's the organization, where you have structural and process levels of organizations, and like quality circles and group work, and how it affects a company as a whole. And then we can ignore a lot of things because there's just lists of journals. I don't think that's important. Okay, history. You care about history? I don't care about history, but we're gonna do it anyways because we have to. Taylorism, big one. Taylor was an engineer, and he had that thing, the principles of scientific management. So like Taylorism is also called scientific management. The thing about it is, like, the initial idea is that organizations should be designed, managed, and continuously perfected according to the principles of rational and systematic engineering analysis. You already see where this is going, that this doesn't work with people, but okay. We're gonna bear with it. They did it for a while. So one thing they did was time and motion studies. You go in 5 steps. First, you take 10 to 15 very skilled people in one profession, and like in a profession that you want to analyze. Then you study exactly what they do in what sequence to do that task. And then you use a stopwatch to measure the time required for each and every single movement. Like, I want to do this movement and then that movement, and you measure the time of everything and remove all false, time-consuming, and useless movements. I cannot see this working on me, but okay. Okay. And after eliminating all those movements, you put together the fastest and best movements in a table. Because humans are so great with working like machines. They didn't know back then. It's a long time ago. It's like 1856 to 1915. That's when the dudes lived. So scientific management came up in 1913. It's quite a while ago. We shall forgive them. The characteristics of Taylorism is extreme partialization. So like the common, now I don't exactly know what that word is because it's actually not here. A production band, like You always do the same thing over and over, like those mass production thingies that run. You know what I mean, I just don't have the word. So it's extremely partialized, and you constantly repeat the same actions. And the labor is divided, so mental work is meant for management, and execution is meant for workers. So a little bit hierarchical, I think. The workers themselves don't need any special qualifications. They're interchangeable and they're cheap. And that's kind of like the whole optimizing production started with Taylor. And that optimization was achieved through designing the work environment in a specific way, have tools and breaks designed in a specific way, select the right personnel, so like their personnel selection became really big. And you'd have workload wages, so people would be paid according to how much they work, not just like how we kind of know it as you were just paid once a month. And you'd have a functional multi-line supervision system. Not sure if that's actually the term that it is used in English, but it's the automatic translation that people gave me. So everybody has multiple supervisors. Difficult. And the motivation of workers was thought to be achieved purely through monetary incentives. So like you're motivated because you're paid. And reanalysis showed though that Taylor's theories were kind of based more on anecdotes than on facts, and it's not really a thing anymore. Afterwards, there was psychotechnology, and psychotechnics is like application of the knowledge and methods of psychology to all areas of life. There's a kind of a problem with that because psychotechnics was supposed to be perfectly objectively impartial. So if a company has a certain goal, it's not the psychologist's business to see whether that's right. And nowadays, work and organizational psychology does not see that way. Like, you can never only have the interests of the company in mind. You always have to have the people, like the employees, the workers, the affected parts of the organization in mind with it, and how they experience it, and if it's good for them or not. And so there's also a differentiation between object psychotechnics, and that's like adjusting the surroundings to a person, versus subject psychotechnics, which is adapting the person to the surroundings. And I think we all know what works better. But that's also kind of not a thing anymore. It came up in like the First World War, but afterwards came the human relations movement, and we all know that because of the Hawthorne studies, and everybody knows the Hawthorne studies. They took women that were like doing phone relays, and then they varied several variables, like they made it lighter or darker. And the thing was that the women were always better. Like during the entire study, whatever they did, whether they made it more positive or more negative, they worked better. And the original explanation was that it was a specific like effect of of expectation and like social interaction. So that's how the human relations movement kind of came to be. So the human relations movement considers the main motivation for people to be the quality of interpersonal relationships. So human relations. Would you stop? My phone's vibrating, sorry. If the social needs of workers are unsatisfied, they become dissatisfied and the productivity declines and diseases occur and everything. So the superiors are supposed to take care of the relationships both horizontally and vertically. So horizontally within working groups and vertical as superior. Central topics are group dynamics, leadership style, working climate, but they did not make concepts to change work structures. And then later there was the socio-technical systems approach, which basically says that if you have a team that works together and likes each other and works well together, do not rip it apart and don't pay them individually when they've always been paid as a group. It makes them much less productive because they become, like, they go from being a team to being lone fighters, and they don't trust each other anymore. Like, there was this thing with coal mining, it's a study. I'm not going to explain the whole thing now because it's already long. However, if you give a group of people responsibility and they in themselves are dependent on each other, but they're not really dependent on anything else in the organization. So like the organizational units are relatively independent. That helps a lot, and that increases productivity. So the design goal of socio-technical systems is the joint optimization of both subsystems. There's a technical part system and a social part system, in the sense of having a best match. And that has to be like done in the beginning. So subsequent adaptations of one of the system to the other is suboptimal. So you should do it from the beginning. And that works best if, as I said, organizational units are relatively independent. There is a context in the task within the organizational unit. There's a unity of production and organization, and they have possibilities to self-regulate. So the socio-technical system is kind of, I think, closest to what we have now, because nowadays group work is kind of a really huge deal, especially partially autonomous work groups that have a considerable amount of autonomy. And so that this kind of approach has prevailed? Is that the word? Don't know if that's the word. Anyway, that's one lecture. That's already 20 minutes. I talk way too much. I have to find a way to make this shorter. It's gonna be a pain in the ass to edit. But you're welcome. It's not very interesting. If you want to, I'm gonna keep on doing it. I think it gets a little bit more interesting. I have no idea where I get to management though, so. I hope you enjoyed it anyways. So, hey. Bye Harley, and Rowan, and Alex, and everybody else who watches the vlogs. Bye!